Behind every oligonucleotide synthesis and chromatography process is a greater purpose, creating life-changing medicines. But for every success story, there are failures, often caused by small, avoidable oversights. One of the most overlooked, yet critical factors, the integrity of seals and O-rings on your synthesis and purification columns. Today we'll hear from Chuck Haeger, Production and Order Fulfillment Manager with Asahi Kasei Bioprocess. A seasoned expert in production management, Chuck specializes in the assembly and qualification of synthesis and purification columns. He will share real-world examples that highlight the importance of valuing output and maintenance equally, showcasing teams with proven protocols that optimize performance, minimize risks, and stay true to our mission, improving the lives of patients in need. I'm your host, James Crosspayne with Bioprocess Online. I'd like to thank you, the audience, for attending today's event. This is live, so we do encourage your participation. I'll be holding a Q&A with Chuck following his presentation, so please share your questions with us using the Q&A tool on your screen. Even if we can't address them all, I'll pass along any we miss for follow-up after the event. The question box can also connect you with me if you run into any trouble, but please try refreshing your browser first, as that will fix most common issues. Finally, today's event will be available on demand. You'll receive an email with a shareable link shortly after we conclude. Now, without further ado, let's begin today's presentation. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you, James. Appreciate that great introduction. And thank you for everyone joining us today. As James said, I'm Chuck Haeger of Asahi Kasei Bioprocess America. And today I want to talk with you about preventing failures in synthesis and chromatography columns. I'll start off today just giving you a little bit of background about AKB. Then we'll get into the critical role of seals and O-rings in columns. Then we'll cover some actionable maintenance strategies. And then we'll have some wrap up and, like James said, some Q&A. So a little bit about AKB. The Fluid Management Business Unit of Asahi Kasei Bioprocess is devoted to solving therapeutic product safety as well as efficiency and purity challenges within pharmaceutical and bioprocessing industries. With technology platforms for virus filtration, inline buffer formulation, chromatography, and oligonucleotide synthesis, our bioprocessing systems, columns, and automation solutions advance GMP manufacturing of critical drug substances around the world. Built with pride, built with quality, built to exceed your expectations, built for you. Asahi Kasei Bioprocess's portfolio includes virus filtration products, fluid management equipment, testing services, as well as biologics development and manufacture. AKB has a global presence, not only to produce our products, but also to support our customers in their work. AKB's headquarters are in Glenview, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. This is where our synthesis and purification columns are designed, assembled, and qualified. We also conduct demonstrations, factory acceptance tests, and trainings at our facility. Asahi Kasei Bioprocess is committed to quality, which is driven by sustaining our QMS to conform with ISO 9001, maintaining a high level of customer satisfaction, continually improving our quality systems and products, embodying the company values of sincerity, challenge, creativity, wisdom, curiosity, growth, passion, and responsibility. AKB is an industry leader in the manufacture of columns used for purification and synthesis, with hundreds of columns of each type out in the world producing medicines patients can trust. Our growth in this industry has been fueled by our remarkable scalability and linear performance comparability for columns ranging in size from 10 centimeters to 140 centimeters in diameter. Before getting into the importance of seals and O-rings, I want to take a moment to provide a brief overview of AKB columns. We offer a static compression synthesis column and a dynamic axial compression column. The static compression column is a reaction vessel that holds solid support for flow through of oligonucleotide synthesis with a fixed top plate designed to allow for expansion of the solid support. The dynamic column is a hydraulically compressed vessel that holds resin or silica for purification of molecules. The movable piston head allows for quick, consistent packing of the reaction bed at different heights. Before I discuss 2 case studies from AKB customers, let's briefly go over some of the benefits of an AKB column. Such things as reliable operation, repeatable and scalable performance are illustrated by broad column installation base all over the world. I've chosen 3 customers to quickly highlight who successfully use our columns. The first customer is in the EU, has acquired a fair number of columns in a relatively short period of time. Since 2019, they've built up an install fleet of 18 columns, SCS and DAC, ranging from 15 centimeters to 50 centimeters in diameter. The second AKB customer has an install fleet in the US on the East Coast. They started with 2 SCS 15 columns in 2015 and now have an install fleet of 22 columns of both SCS and DAC columns, ranging in size from 15 to 50 centimeters. A third customer successfully using AKB columns is in the Mountain West of the US. This customer started acquiring our columns in 2006 and has acquired a fleet of over 58 columns, SCS and DAC, ranging from 15 to 100 centimeters. This install base includes multiple columns of the same diameter. These 98 columns and others like them around the world provide great performance reliably with regular maintenance. For our first case study, we have a European contract development and manufacturing organization. This customer has a significant number of columns acquired over a 10-year period. The customer noticed a performance degradation in their oligonucleotide impurity profile in 2 columns, a 15 centimeter column and a 40 centimeter column. The customer continued operation without considering the maintenance history of these 2 columns. When they tore down the columns, they found extensive damage to the O-rings, with the damage occurring at an unknown time, sometime within the 3-year equipment install period. You can see here in the photograph the degradation of the O-ring. The customer contacted AKB and troubleshooting process began. There were calls and emails, questions back and forth, photos from the customers, and AKB reviewed the customer's order history of consumables, the seals and O-rings. Investigation determined that the root cause was a lack of annual seal replacement. These columns performed poorly due to the lack of maintenance. The installed O-rings were of the correct chemical compatibility for the application, but the O-rings did degrade over time. They were used for 2 and 3 times the expected life cycle. For our second case study, we have an American-based contract development and manufacturing organization. This customer has been purchasing columns from AKB since 2006 and has multiple columns in the same diameters and a wide range of diameters in both synthesis and purification columns. This customer called AKB on site for urgent training and support for a number of issues experienced on their purification columns, sizes ranging from 20 centimeters to 35 centimeters. The customer's representatives communicating with AKB couldn't provide much information before the visit began. There was very little information known about what was being experienced by the operators beyond a dilute product and a loss of hydraulic fluid. AKB column experts arrived at the customer site, held training sessions, conducted Q&As, and commenced with some troubleshooting. One of the operators reported that the hydraulic cart is drinking water. We thought about this a bit, and I asked the question, where's the liquid going? There was no visible leaks. So the liquid was kind of disappearing. And it occurred to a couple of my colleagues and I, customer, was your product becoming less pure or dilute over time within the batches? The answer was yes. There's a hydraulic cart that puts pressurized liquid into the hydraulic chamber of the column, and the hydraulic cart had continued to pump hydraulic fluid into the column, but there were no visible leaks. What was determined was that the hydraulic fluid was going past old seals and O-rings and entering the product stream and diluting it. There were other multiple significant operations, misoperations, including the lack of maintenance to these columns and a bypassed or capped leak detector system. So I want to explain that in a little more detail. Our DAC columns have two piston seals, two pressure seals, and a leak detection system. You can see here in this zoom in cutaway of a piston head that there's an upper and lower piston seal, and then in between them, you can see that there's a dark line, and that is a hole in the side of the piston head and tubing that runs to the outside of the column. The upper piston seal faces the pressure of the hydraulic column, of the hydraulic chamber, and the lower piston seal holds the pressure of the process chamber. If one of those seals begins to fail and the liquid weeps around one of those seals, that liquid will then travel up and out the leak detector, and you have an emission of liquid at the leak detector outlet. You can analyze pH that emission liquid, and you will know whether you've got product stream or hydraulic fluid. But the customer had capped the leak detector outlet, so they lost the ability to understand the condition of the piston seals within the column. So these seals had gone into failure mode. Perhaps I'm going to draw the conclusion here that the operators didn't understand the purpose of the leak detector system, the leak detector outlet, and the hydraulic fluid didn't go out the leak detector, informing operators of an issue with seals. The hydraulic fluid diluted the product stream. AKB columns are engineered to prevent a situation where hydraulic fluid would end up in the product. And in this case, it took severe operational negligence to create this event. So we've had a quick look at a couple of customer case studies, and there's commonality in these situations and in the questions from the customers. What, why, how, when? What went wrong? Why did this happen? How can this get rectified, corrected? And of course, when can this get fixed? The sooner the better, right? In both of these cases, maintenance and operator training were the only required corrective measures. AKB equipment is robust, as illustrated by the extensive worldwide install base of hundreds of columns in both SCS and DAC. Fabricated parts have provided decades of service in several installations. Seals and O-rings do not fail under expected operation. Improved operator training and maintenance with consumable schedules in line with AKB recommendations are the solely required preventative measures for these customers moving forward. A contributing factor to both of these cases is the lack of understanding of the equipment and a lack of regular maintenance. AKB column user manuals include maintenance intervals for normal operation. Column unpacking and frit change require a scraper seal kit. This is considered a consumable, and customers should consider this as part of the batch. Annual disassembly for cleaning and inspection of the fabricated parts requires a column seal kit for regular maintenance activities. What is the potential financial impact from lack of column maintenance? The figures on this slide come from AKB customers. One customer stated downtime costs $10,000 per hour. That's easily calculatable as $80,000 per shift. With many facilities operating 24/7, you have 3 shifts in a day. Downtime can cost $240,000 per day, and in just a few days, you're at $1 million. Another AKB customer estimated the cost of a completed batch. First, oligos synthesized on a 50 centimeter column. The value, once the synthesis operation is complete, they estimated the value minimally at $1.3 million and as high as $3.4 million for standard sequence product. This is a batch of about 2.5 kilograms of product. This is labor, materials, and consumables. This customer estimated that the batch after the purification step was then worth between $2.9 and $5 million. These are cost estimates based solely on raw materials, consumables, and labor invested into the product. It doesn't include the costs of market value, potential sales price of the treatments after processing. In addition to the financial impact directly related to the value of the product, there are other costs. Other costs such as lost labor hours. You're going to have quite a bit of engineering and QA staff hours. You're going to have to do an investigation. There's going to be deviation reporting. You're going to have significant impacts to production schedules. When the line goes down, all the scheduling decaying cascades throughout your production schedule. And CMOs, they have customers and they're providing product that has to be delivered on time. So delayed deliveries lead to loss of reputation. Let's talk about some actionable maintenance strategies for robust column operations. Best practices tell us to schedule regular maintenance for optimal column operations. There's 2 kinds of maintenance events in my experience, planned and unplanned. Many people refer to unplanned maintenance as emergency maintenance or repair work, and there are often delays with this type of activity. Delays from unknowns, lack of preparedness. Are the consumables on hand? Is the staff with the skills available to perform the maintenance? Is the space available to disassemble the column? Are the tools at hand and ready to go? There's a tried and true motto: be prepared. Have appropriate consumables on hand at all times. Train your personnel. Consider service contracts so that critically important maintenance can be conducted by professional column technicians. AKB can help your organization address all these issues. Regular column maintenance is cost-effective and saves time. Planned column maintenance leads to robust, repeatable column performance, optimal use of consumables, minimal labor hours, less disruptions, production schedules are on time, and reputation of on-schedule quality product delivered to your customers. Consumables supplied by AKB are organized in kits to make procurement, inventory, and installation as easy as possible. AKB works closely with its partner vendors to not only ensure quality, but also traceability and robust documentation of the seal kits. Each AKBA column is delivered with a GMP turnover package. AKB supplied consumables meets those same standards. If this slide looks familiar, it should. This was slide 11 earlier in the presentation. All of these points are very important. Users of AKB columns expect these benefits here. How do we achieve these benefits consistently? By properly maintaining the column and training personnel. Column maintenance is a unique task. It's not always a difficult task, yet if personnel are unfamiliar with the equipment, maintenance activities can seem daunting. AKB can help your organization save time and money regarding column operation and maintenance. AKB has the experience and expertise to help your organization. AKB is your trusted advisor to help your organization have successful operations. Last couple of slides. I promise I'm almost done. Let me summarize with some takeaways. There is value with having an emphasis on planned column maintenance, and not just on your columns. Other equipment at your facility, and even equipment at your home. AKB understands maintenance can be a challenge, and AKB can help your organization with these activities. I tend to think of myself as a mechanic. Thanks to my father, who was an engineer, I grew up with a wrench in my hand. As far back as I can remember, my father performed all the preventative maintenance on all the equipment around our home. The appliances, the furnace, bicycles, the cars, the lawnmower. He taught me to change oil on the family car when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I remember a TV commercial from that time for Fram oil filters. At the end of the commercial, a mechanic would say, "You can pay me now or you can pay me later," referring to an inexpensive oil change now versus deferring maintenance and paying a lot for a new engine later. While preparing for this presentation, I found something I had forgotten. Another version of this advertisement. Pay a little now instead of a lot later. You can pay a little now, have consumables on hand, train your personnel, and have service contracts. Or you can pay a lot later in downtime and lost product. Place a value on emphasis and routine maintenance. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Chuck, for that amazing presentation. It really highlights how critical maintaining seals and O-rings is for successful synthesis and chromatography.
Yeah.
Before the Q&A begins, I'd like to remind the audience that you can connect directly with Chuck. His information is located on the side of your screen. We also encourage you to continue submitting questions using the Q&A box. So we're going to jump right into the Q&A. Our first question, what are the biggest hurdles in the way of implementing more effective preventative maintenance programs?
Well, there's a few hurdles. Well-written SOPs are a great place to start. Regularly scheduled trainings are also a must for success. There's a lot of turnover in the industry, especially we see this at the operator level, and planning on having regular trainings of your personnel is actually the most critical thing I've seen in the recent years. Every 6 months, even every 12 months, get something on the calendar, set it up, make it a regular thing that you're just, even if it's a classroom training for an hour and a half, we find that gives great value to our customers. And again, the SOPs to fortify creating new habits. If it's written in the SOP, the operators are great at executing. So, and then get involved with your procurement people and have some consumables on hand and change the mindset. What do we need for our next batch? Okay, we need solid support, and we need media for the column. Oh, we need seals and O-rings.
Thank you so much. I think this question from Curtis falls in a similar vein. For teams that are still operating reactively, you gave a little bit of advice, but there were a lot of options. What are the first steps they can take tomorrow to start moving toward a more preventative maintenance culture?
Well, start talking about it in terms of preventative maintenance and talk about seals and O-rings in terms of their consumables. You need Wi-Fi. Can you imagine thinking about Wi-Fi as something, do I need that at all? No, it's a regular thing. It's like breathing air, right? You got to have Wi-Fi. You got to have seals and O-rings. You're going to unpack a column and repack it. You're changing out the frit. Well, there's a scraper seal and a scraper seal O-ring, and on a larger column, there's a frit bolt washer. Those come in a kit. And the kit has a name. The kit catalog number begins with SCRP for scraper, and then it's got a dash and numbers, and that's the size, the diameter of your column. So we've really standardized this and made it as straightforward as possible where, hey, I need a scraper seal kit for my 70 centimeter column. Think about consumables, not spare parts. In the old days, people talked about having spare parts. Well, spare part is kind of like a spare tire in the trunk of your car in case you get a flat. But an oil filter for your car is not a spare part. That's consumable. You're regularly consuming that if you're taking care of your car. So write in these things into your SOPs. Work with your AKB account manager. Set something up quarterly, biannually, annually, and let us help you create some new habits.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned your father. Growing up with mine, it was Boy Scout, always be prepared.
Yeah, right.
But I'm sure, we have a question from Cynthia that want to know, what kind of ROI or performance improvements have you seen in facilities that made the shift to proactive seal and O-ring replacement schedules?
Right. Yeah. So it's a little bit dependent on column diameter. Some of our customers, particularly the ones who have extensive facilities, and they've got some 15s and 20s, and they got some 100s. If you go back to the slide that I talked about where we have a 50 centimeter column, and post oligo, the low end value was 1.2, 1.3 mil. Okay, and then you're partway through. You've done your synthesis. Then you go and do a purification, and you take that $1.3 million worth of product, and now it's worth double. So it's worth 2.5 million. Okay. That 50 centimeter column, the seal kit, the column seal kit and the collar seal kit that are required for a full teardown on the DAC column on a 50 centimeter column is about $25,000. And if you have two of your own people who are trained and experienced, their labor cost to you is about $120, $120 an hour per person. Okay. And it's a 50 centimeter column. You put two maintenance people on it. It takes them a day and a half to disassemble the 50, clean it, put all new O-rings and seals on it, put it back together again, and do a pressure test to verify the column's in good condition. That would take about a day and a half. So you've got less than $30,000 in a scheduled preventative maintenance on a DAC column. And you've got product value of a product cost, not value, product cost of $2.5, $3 million. PM 30. Say you hire somebody else, say you hire AKB to do it for you. And so the labor rate's a little higher, so 35,000 to rebuild your 50 centimeter column annually, a column that makes a batch of product worth $3 million. That seems like a self-answering question. Like, right, 30,000, pay me now, a little now, 30,000, or potentially lose 3 million.
Right. I can see where the investment makes sense there, no doubt.
Yeah.
But okay, so if we're saying we're moving over to this approach, what is a practical way that we can track these seal and O-ring replacements if you're in a busy production schedule? Do you recommend things like logs, alerts, or visual tagging systems?
Customers keep batch records now. All they need to do is add a field or two, add a line or two, and they can include the column service activities or the consumable activities right there in their batch records. So all they need to do is just a little expansion of what they're already doing, a little bit of detail to what is already there. You've got operators filling out log sheets, add another line, add a couple fields. And also some of it's habitual, right? Some of it's a habit. When you're packing and unpacking a column and you're putting in new, if it's synthesis, it's solid support, and if it's purification, it's media or silica maybe. You're discharging the column of the spent material. You should be putting in clean pair of frits, and on the AKB column, the frits are retained by the scraper seal. So you do a scraper seal kit at every change out. It's just a consumable, and you change it every time you pack and unpack the column. To me, that one's easy. Hey, we're unpacking the column. We're changing this out. And then minimally, annually, full column teardown. Pick a month, make a list on the wall in the maintenance department. A lot of our customers have 18, 20, 30, 50 columns. How many? If you got 12 columns, tear down one a month.
Yep. I think this question falls pretty in a similar vein. Roy's asking, how should his plant managers think about seal and O-ring procurement? Should they be stocked like other critical consumables?
Sure. So yes, and there's a little bit of separation in that because of the change out of the solid support or the stationary phase. That's kind of a regular operation. Some customers are changing out the media inside the column every month. Sometimes they're changing it out 2 or 3 times a month. Sometimes they're changing it out a couple times a year. So how often are you changing out your solid support? And your scraper seal kit you got to manage that inventory according to how frequently you're doing the change out on the column. You should have some of those kits on hand. How many kits do you consume in 4 to 6 weeks? AKB can ship and deliver to you scraper seal kits for your column in quantities in 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. So you should keep a 4-week, 6-week supply of scraper seal kits on your shelf. And if you know what your production schedule is, even for this coming quarter, you can cut a PO to AKB, and we can set you up with a program where we will ship you periodically every 4 weeks, every 2 weeks. You'll have some seals on hand on your facility, and we'll just regularly deliver it to you. Now, with the column annual teardown, with the full column seal kit, you should have a full column seal kit on the shelf for an emergency. If there's a premature failure of a seal, you've got everything you need on hand. And when you pull that off the shelf, you can do a Kanban system. You just have a order card on there, or hey, when you break this shelf and you pull this down, order it. There's a label right on the bag. Just order another one of those right away, and you'll have one within 4 to 6 weeks. So use that, pull that column seal kit off the shelf and order your next one right away. And of course, we can help with setting you up with an inventory replenishment program. Some of our customers have, say, 3 or 4 60s, and we know they're going to do it 4 or 5 60-centimeter full teardowns a year. So we always have, because we have an arrangement, we actually inventory those for them, and they send us an email. We ship them an invoice. They're on hand, ready to go.
Excellent. So in a situation now where, I have, procured the replacements, you were talking before about the $30,000 on top of, much, much, much more. So Alex is asking, are there telltale signs during column operation, like a pressure shift or flow inconsistencies, that would indicate seal failure is imminent?
Yeah. There are different things. You look at one of our 2 case studies where the customer was losing hydraulic fluid. They didn't know where it was going, and the product was getting more and more dilute over time. And they had also bypassed one of the column engineered systems. If things are changing, something's going on. And I think what's really important here is not so much having the right seals on hand, is having the right knowledge in your folks. And I think so many people grow up going through school and then starting their career. The column is on a flow chart, and the column is a black box, and the liquid flows in and magic happens and it flows out. And then sometime you leave the classroom or you leave the lab scale, and then you're out there on a production floor where the column you can barely put your arms around. And it's a machine. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't move. It doesn't shake the building, but it is a machine in operation. And if you don't understand the machine will talk to you. I think of myself as a mechanic, and they're kind of living, breathing entities. And if you don't know what it's telling you, if you haven't been trained on the column and you've not made yourself familiar with the user manual, you're going to miss out on the telltale signs, like liquid out the leak detector. What is that liquid? Is it hydraulic fluid? Is it DI and IPA hydraulic fluid? Or is it, or has it got some solvent in it? Is it your Wi-Fi? Well, okay, I've got a hydraulic piston seal that's starting to fail, or I've got a process chamber seal that's about to fail. It's been 10 months since that column's been serviced. Well, we've been running some harsher solvents through it. Hey, we need to do our annual teardown on that column.
Great. I think this led perfectly into the next question. So you highlighted that the equipment, while it can be fantastic, it's also about the people. So what are some techniques to ensure that training is not only consistent across all operators, but remains effective over time?
Well, I think part of it is to have AKB recommended practices written into SOPs. That helps remind and reinforce the training. Myself and my colleagues can show up at a customer site and lead great, fun, enthusiastic, interactive trainings. We can do some classroom stuff. We can do some hands-on out in the shop space or a maintenance space. But if there's not documentation to back it up, those things get forgotten. You can't train me on something and then I don't really look at it for a few weeks and then it floats away. So writing things into SOPs, I think, is critical. Revising log sheets. There's a lot of great habits in the industry that are based on paying attention to the product. And again, I know I'm repeating myself a little bit from a few minutes ago, but a few extra fields on existing log sheets to go, column, change scraper seal kit, unpacking column, clean pair of frits, new scraper seal kit. Is that a checkbox? Are they writing down? They should log every AKB seal kit comes with a lot number on the sticker on the bag. Record the lot number of the seals. Capture that in your batch record. Create some new habits. Adapt the habits it's not really creating, it's adapt the existing habits to include some new ones.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for answering these questions. Thank you for the amazing presentation. We do have more questions. I want to thank the audience for asking so many. Some of them are a little bit more specific, so don't worry if we didn't get to your question. I'm going to pass them along to Chuck, and he'll be able to reach out to you offline. But I would like to thank you for being here today, both Chuck and the audience. We appreciate you being with us, and we hope to see you again soon. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Really fun, James. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Chuck.